Vivian returns from a relaxing Florida trip to find her suitcases piled on the sidewalk outside her suburban home. A handwritten note tucked between them reads, "If you want to stay here, we have the garage ready for you." Signed by her daughter-in-law, Pamela. Shocked and confused, Vivian recalls purchasing this house 15 years ago when her son married, putting it in both their names for inheritance purposes. Before the taxi driver unloads her remaining bags, Vivian calls the bank. The mortgage statements confirm what she already knows. She pays the bills. The taxi driver watches me with concern as I stand frozen on the sidewalk, phone clutched in my hand. At 65, I never expected to find myself locked out of my own home. "Ma'am, is everything okay?" he asks. My remaining luggage still in his trunk. I need to make a few more calls, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. "Could you wait just a moment longer? I may need to go somewhere else." 15 years ago, when my son Jeffrey announced his engagement to Pamela, I was overjoyed. My husband Frank had passed away just 2 years earlier, and I saw their marriage as a new beginning for our small family. I wanted to give them something meaningful, so I used most of my savings to purchase this 2-story colonial in a quiet New Jersey suburb. It was my gift to them, but with practical foresight, I put the house in both Jeffrey's name and mine for inheritance and tax purposes. "Mom, are you sure?" Jeffrey had asked back then. "This is too much." "Nonsense," I'd replied. "What else am I saving for, if not for you to have a good start? Besides, I'll likely move in with you both when I'm ancient and gray." We had all laughed at that, none of us knowing that 5 years later, after a bout with pneumonia left me weakened and alone in my apartment, Jeffrey would suggest I move in sooner rather than later. It had seemed like the perfect arrangement. The house had 4 bedrooms, plenty of space for the 3 of us. I'd pay the mortgage while they handled utilities and day-to-day expenses. For 10 years it worked beautifully. I had my independence on the 2nd floor, with my own bedroom and small sitting area. Jeffrey and Pamela had their privacy downstairs. We shared meals when our schedules aligned, but generally lived separate lives under one roof. 2 weeks ago, I left for Florida to visit my sister Dorothy. The trip had been planned for months, a chance for sisters to reconnect and enjoy the sunshine. Dorothy and I had a wonderful time walking along the beach, visiting art galleries, and staying up late talking like we did as girls. There had been no indication of any problems at home. Jeffrey had driven me to the airport, kissing my cheek and telling me to have a great time. Pamela had texted me a polite safe travels message. Nothing to suggest I'd return to find my belongings on the sidewalk. I try calling Jeffrey, but the call goes straight to voicemail. Pamela's phone rings several times before disconnecting. I'm left standing there, unsure what to do next. "Mrs. Harrison?" The taxi driver gestures to his meter, which is still running. "I'm sorry. Yes, please unload my bags here. I need to sort this out." As he places my luggage beside the others, I notice the garage door opening. Pamela emerges, her petite frame moving with deliberate steps toward me. "You're back early," she says flatly. "No hug, no welcome home." "No, this is exactly when I said I'd return." "What's going on, Pamela? Why are my things outside?" "We've made some changes while you were gone. Jeffrey and I felt it was time." She hands me a key that I don't recognize. "This opens the side door to the garage. We've set up a space for you there." "The garage? I don't understand." "Well, come see for yourself," she says, turning without waiting for my response. I follow her around to the side of the house, leaving my luggage on the sidewalk. When she opens the door, I'm momentarily speechless. The garage still holds both cars, but a corner has been cleared. There sits a cot with a thin mattress, a small dresser, and a folding screen that offers minimal privacy. "What is this?" I ask, unable to comprehend what I'm seeing. "It's your new room," Pamela says with a tight smile. "We needed to make some changes upstairs." Confused and increasingly upset, I push past her back into the house. I head straight for the stairs, ignoring her protests behind me. When I reach the 2nd floor, and open the door to my bedroom, I stop cold. The room has been completely transformed. My bed is gone, replaced by a white crib. The walls, once a soothing blue, are now painted a pale yellow with a border of dancing teddy bears. My dresser, nightstand, and personal items have vanished. "Surprise," Pamela says from behind me, her tone lacking any warmth. "We're expecting. We needed the nursery to be ready before the baby comes." I turn to face her, noticing for the first time the slight swell beneath her blouse. My daughter-in-law's pregnant, and she never told me. "You're pregnant," I say, the words feeling foreign in my mouth. "And you never thought to tell me?" Pamela rests a protective hand on her stomach. "We wanted to wait until everything was settled. I'm only 3 months along." "Settled? By settled, you mean removing all my belongings from my room and setting up a cot in the garage?" My voice rises despite my efforts to stay calm. "Where are my things, Pamela?" "Some are in storage, some are in the garage. The rest." She hesitates, not meeting my eyes. "The rest what?" "We had to make some decisions. You had so many things that were just collecting dust." The implication hits me like a physical blow. "Are you telling me you got rid of my possessions without my knowledge or consent?" Before she can answer, we hear the front door open and close. Jeffrey's voice calls out, "Pam, I'm home." I brush past Pamela and hurry down the stairs, relief flooding through me. Surely Jeffrey will set things right. "Mom," he says, surprise evident on his face as I appear in the entryway. "You're back. How was Florida?" "Jeffrey, what's going on?" I came home to find my luggage on the sidewalk and a cot set up for me in the garage. His expression shifts from surprise to discomfort. He runs a hand through his thinning hair, a nervous gesture he's had since childhood. "Mom, we've been meaning to talk to you about making some changes around here." "Changes? You call this a change? Your wife converted my bedroom into a nursery without telling me." Jeffrey glances toward the stairs, where Pamela now stands, one hand still resting on her stomach. "You told her?" he asks her. "She went upstairs and saw for herself," Pamela replies. He turns back to me. "Mom, we wanted to surprise you with the news about the baby, but we also needed to start preparing. The upstairs bedroom makes the most sense for the nursery." "And the garage makes sense for your mother?" I ask, trying to keep my voice from breaking. "The unfinished garage with no bathroom, no heating, and no insulation?" "It's temporary," Jeffrey says quickly. "We're planning to convert it into a proper apartment." "When? And with whose money?" I ask. Pamela descends the final few steps. "We thought you might want to contribute, since you'll be the one living there." I stare at them both. These people I thought I knew. Let me understand this correctly. You want me to pay to convert the garage into an apartment while I continue to pay the mortgage on this house? An uncomfortable silence fills the entryway. "We're a family," Jeffrey finally says. "We all need to make sacrifices." "I see. And what sacrifices are you making exactly?" Neither of them answers. "I need some time to think," I say, feeling suddenly exhausted. "And I need a proper place to stay tonight." "The garage is ready now," Pamela insists. "The garage is not habitable," I counter. "It's 40 degrees in there, there's no bathroom, and it violates about a dozen housing codes." I pull out my phone and order another taxi. "I'll be staying at a hotel tonight. Tomorrow, we can discuss this, like rational adults." The hurt and betrayal I feel must show on my face because Jeffrey steps forward. "Mom, please, we can work this out." "Not tonight, Jeffrey. I need some distance." While waiting for the taxi, I collect my luggage from the sidewalk. Neither Jeffrey nor Pamela offers to help. When the car arrives, I load my bags without looking back at the house I paid for, but apparently no longer have the right to live in. At the Comfort Inn 10 minutes away, I call Dorothy. She answers on the second ring, her voice warm and familiar. "Vivian, did you get home okay? I miss you already." The simple kindness in her voice breaks something inside me, and to my embarrassment, I begin to cry. "Viv, what's wrong?" Between sobs, I explain the situation. Those ungrateful little. Dorothy rarely swears, but she makes an exception now. "Stay where you are tonight. Tomorrow, you go back and stand your ground. That's your house. I don't know what to do, I admit. I never expected this from Jeffrey. This isn't Jeffrey, Dorothy says firmly. This has Pamela written all over it. She's been trying to edge you out for years. What do you mean? Dorothy sighs. I didn't want to say anything before, but every time I visit, I notice how she undermines you. The comments about your cooking, your clothes, the way she rearranges things you've cleaned. She's been marking her territory, and now with a baby coming, she's making her move. I want to deny it, but memories flash through my mind. Small incidents I dismissed as misunderstandings or oversensitivity on my part. The next morning, I returned to the house, determined to have a real conversation with my son. I timed my arrival for after Pamela leaves for her job at the local elementary school. Jeffrey works from home 3 days a week, and Thursday is one of those days. He looks surprised, but not unhappy to see me when he opens the door. Mom, I'm glad you came back. We need to talk, Jeffrey. Alone. He leads me to the kitchen where we sit at the table, where our family has shared countless meals. The familiar surroundings make what I'm about to say even more difficult. Why didn't you warn me about any of this? I ask. Jeffrey stares down at his coffee mug. I wanted to, but Pamela thought it would be easier this way. She said you might try to talk us out of it. Out of making me sleep in the garage? Of course I would have. It's not just inappropriate, it's potentially illegal. I own half this house, Jeffrey. I pay the mortgage. His head snaps up. You gifted us this house when we got married. No, I bought this house and put it in both our names, so you would inherit it smoothly when I'm gone. There's a difference. Pamela says that since you intended it as a gift, we should have full ownership now. I take a deep breath. Has Pamela been talking to you about transferring my ownership to her name? The way he avoids my eyes tells me everything. She has, hasn't she? And what did you tell her? I said I'd think about it, he admits quietly. She's been insistent lately. Says it would be better for the baby's future. And what about my future, Jeffrey? Did either of you consider that? He looks genuinely troubled. She says we'll always take care of you. In the garage? He winces. It's not what I wanted. Then why did you allow it? His voice drops to nearly a whisper. She threatened to leave if I didn't support her on this. She said she won't raise her child in a house where she doesn't feel like it's truly hers. I reach across the table and take his hand. Jeffrey, this isn't right. No matter how you look at it. I know, he admits. But I don't know what to do. She's having my baby, Mom. And I'm your mother. I've supported you your entire life. I bought this house so you could start your marriage on solid ground, not so I could be thrown out 15 years later. The conversation continues in circles, with Jeffrey caught between his wife's demands and his sense of duty to me. By the time we hear Pamela's car in the driveway, she's home early. We've reached no resolution. But one thing has become painfully clear. My son is afraid of his wife, and she's been working to separate us for longer than I realized. The next morning, I meet with Nancy Whitman, a financial advisor recommended by an old colleague. Her office is warm and inviting, with credentials displayed tastefully on the walls and a desk free of clutter. At 68, Nancy has the confident air of someone who's seen it all and isn't easily shocked. Until I tell her my situation. Let me make sure I understand, she says, removing her reading glasses. You purchased the house 15 years ago, putting it in both your and your son's names. You've been paying the mortgage the entire time while living there? And now they want to move you to the garage? That's correct. And your daughter-in-law wants your son to transfer your ownership interest to her? Yes. Nancy taps her pen against her notepad. First, I need to see all your financial documents, mortgage statements, property deed, any written agreements between you and your son. Even if they were informal emails or text messages, I pull a folder from my purse. I have the mortgage statements and a copy of the deed. There were never any written agreements. It was a family matter. I trusted my son. The look of sympathy she gives me speaks volumes. Over the next hour, Nancy reviews my documents and explains my options. None are particularly appealing. You could force a sale of the property through partition action, but that's expensive and messy. You could try to buy out your son's interest, but given the current market, that would be costly. Or you could try negotiating with them for a better living arrangement. What about the fact that I've been paying the mortgage? Doesn't that count for anything? It certainly strengthens your moral position, but legally, it's complicated. Without documentation stating your payments were loans or created additional equity for you, they could argue the payments were gifts. I leave Nancy's office with more questions than answers, and a recommendation for a real estate attorney. As I drive back to the hotel, I've extended my stay for another week. My phone rings. It's a number I don't recognize. Mrs. Harrison? This is Sandra from First National Bank. We need to speak with you about some recent credit applications. My stomach tightens. Credit applications? I haven't applied for any new credit. Our fraud department flagged several inquiries made in your name over the past 2 weeks. Would you be able to come to the branch to discuss this matter? 30 minutes later, I sit across from Sandra and her colleague from the fraud department. They show me applications for 3 credit cards and a personal loan, all submitted online in my name while I was in Florida. I didn't apply for any of these, I say, my hands trembling slightly. I was out of state when these were submitted. That's what we suspected, Sandra says. The applications were flagged because they came from a different IP address than your usual banking activity. We declined all of them pending verification. Someone stole my identity? It appears so. Do you have any idea who might have access to your personal information? I think about the layout of my former bedroom, the desk where I kept my financial documents in the bottom drawer. Never locked because I never thought I needed to. I might, I say, feeling sick. The bank helps me place a fraud alert on my credit reports and recommends I file a police report. Instead, I make another call to a private investigator named Michael Walker, who specialized in financial crimes before opening his own practice. Michael agrees to meet me the following day. He's younger than I expected, perhaps in his early 40s, with attentive eyes and a methodical approach that instantly puts me at ease. Financial elder abuse is more common than people realize, he explains after I've told him everything, especially within families. I don't want to believe my son would be involved in this, I say. It might not be him. From what you've described, your daughter-in-law seems to be driving these decisions. Michael outlines his process. He'll investigate the credit applications, look into Pamela's background, and help me understand my options. His services aren't cheap, but at this point, I feel I have little choice. While waiting for Michael's findings, I gather my courage and reach out to my neighbors, the Andersons, who live next door to my house. Carol Anderson has always been friendly, inviting me to her garden club and book discussions. "Vivian, we've missed seeing you," she says when she opens the door. "I've been away," I say, not wanting to explain everything on her doorstep. "May I come in?" Over tea in her cozy living room, I explain my situation. Carol's expression shifts from shock to outrage. "I had no idea," she says. "Though now that you mention it, Pamela did say something odd at our last book club meeting. She mentioned you were considering moving to a retirement community, and they were preparing the house for the baby." She said, "What? When was this?" "About 2 weeks ago. Right after you left for Florida, I think. Carol, I have never discussed moving to a retirement community. Ever." Carol's husband Tom joins us, adding his own observation. "Come to think of it, there was a dumpster in your driveway last week. I assumed you were doing renovations." A dumpster. My stomach lurches as I think about my missing possessions. "Did you happen to see what went into it?" Tom shakes his head. "No, but it was filled and taken away pretty quickly, just a day or 2. I leave the Andersons with more pieces to this disturbing puzzle. Back at my hotel, I receive a call from Michael Walker. "Mrs. Harrison, I've found some interesting information about your daughter-in-law that you should know." We arrange to meet the following morning at a quiet cafe. Michael brings a folder with him, which he opens carefully. Pamela Bennett, now Pamela Harrison, was previously married to a man named Robert Keller. This is news to me. She never mentioned a previous marriage. It lasted less than 3 years. They divorced 7 years before she met your son. Why is this relevant? Michael slides a document across the table. This is a statement from Robert Keller's mother, Linda Keller, given during divorce proceedings. She accused Pamela of financial exploitation. I scan the document, my blood running cold, as I read Linda Keller's testimony. She described how Pamela had gradually taken control of family finances, opened credit cards in Linda's name, and attempted to have Linda declared incompetent when she confronted them. The case was settled privately, Michael explains. But I was able to track down Linda Keller. She's willing to speak with you. I stare at him, struggling to process this revelation. Pamela has done this before. It appears so. And there's more. Those credit applications in your name? They were submitted from your home's IP address. The email used for verification was created recently, vivianharrison65@gmail.com, but it wasn't registered to you. Let me guess, Pamela. Michael nods. The recovery phone number belongs to her. As I leave the cafe, clutching Michael's folder of evidence, my phone buzzes with a text from Jeffrey. Mom, we need to talk. Please come home. Just you and me tomorrow morning. Pamela will be at work. I respond simply. I'll be there at 9. That night, I barely sleep, my mind racing with everything I've learned. By morning, I feel more resolved than ever to confront this situation head-on. But when I arrive at the house, my house, I'm completely unprepared for what Jeffrey tells me. Mom, I think you should know that Pamela has been talking to a lawyer about the house, he says as soon as we sit down. She says, since you've been living here rent-free for 5 years, your half of the house might legally be considered a gift to us. I stare at my son, momentarily speechless. Rent-free? Jeffrey, I've been paying the entire mortgage, $3,000 every month for 15 years. She says those could be considered voluntary payments since there was no formal agreement. The depth of the manipulation takes my breath away. And you believe this? He looks miserable. I don't know what to believe anymore. She's very convincing when she gets like this. I decide not to reveal everything I've learned from Michael yet. Instead, I ask a simple question. Do you want me to leave, Jeffrey? Is that truly what you want? His eyes fill with tears. No, Mom. Of course not. But I'm scared of losing my family. Pamela says if I don't support her on this, she'll take the baby and leave. Oh, Jeffrey. My heart breaks for my son, even as I struggle with my own sense of betrayal. We'll figure this out, but I need you to understand something. I will not be moving into the garage, and I will not be signing over my ownership of this house. As I prepare to leave, Jeffrey stops me with a hand on my arm. Mom, be careful. Pamela's been going through your things. I found her in your desk several times while you were away. This confirms my suspicions about the credit applications. Thank you for telling me. And Mom? His voice drops to a whisper. I think she's been taking your mail. There was a stack of it in her craft room. Mail theft. Another federal crime to add to identity theft and fraud. As I walk to my car, I realize we're well beyond a simple family disagreement. This is a carefully orchestrated campaign to push me out and take what's mine. The mysterious package arrives at my hotel 3 days later. No return address, just my name, written in a familiar handwriting, Jeffrey's. Inside, I find a USB drive and a short note. Mom, I found these on Pamela's computer. I'm sorry. I take the drive to Michael Walker's office, unwilling to view the contents alone. He plugs it into his computer and opens the files while I sit beside him, bracing myself for what we might find. The drive contains dozens of documents, scanned copies of my mail, including bank statements and investment reports, photographs of my personal documents, including my social security card and passport, and most disturbing of all, a spreadsheet titled Vivian's Assets with detailed notes on how to access each one. This is comprehensive, Michael says, his professional tone barely masking his shock. But the most chilling file is a Word document labeled Plan. It outlines a 6-month strategy for taking control of my financial assets, beginning with removing me from the house and culminating with a timeline for declaring me mentally incompetent if I resist. I need a lawyer, I say, my voice surprisingly steady despite the trembling in my hands. Not just a real estate lawyer, someone who specializes in elder law and financial crimes. Michael refers me to Patricia Morales, an attorney with experience in both areas. She agrees to see me the same day. Patricia's office is in a converted Victorian house, her practice occupying the entire second floor. She's a formidable woman in her 50s with shrewd eyes and a no-nonsense manner. Based on what you've shown me, we have potential cases for identity theft, mail fraud, and attempted financial exploitation, she says after reviewing the evidence. The question is whether you want to pursue criminal charges against your daughter-in-law. And potentially my son, I add, the words painful to speak. From what you've told me, your son seems more victim than perpetrator. But yes, he could be implicated depending on his level of involvement. What are my options? We can file for an emergency injunction to prevent any transfer of the property. We can report the identity theft and mail fraud to the authorities. And we can sue for elder abuse and financial exploitation in civil court. The thought of taking my family to court makes me physically ill. Is there any way to resolve this without destroying what's left of my relationship with my son? Patricia considers this. We could attempt mediation first, but given the calculated nature of these actions, I'm not optimistic. Sometimes the only language people like your daughter-in-law understand is legal consequence. I leave Patricia's office with a retainer agreement and a growing determination to protect myself. The sense of violation and betrayal is profound, but underneath it, a spark of anger is beginning to burn. How dare they try to take what I've worked my entire life for? Following Michael's lead, I arrange to meet with Linda Keller, Pamela's former mother-in-law. We meet at a restaurant halfway between our towns, two women connected by the same predator. Linda is in her 70s, elegant despite the cane she uses to support herself. I wondered if this day would come, she says after we introduce ourselves. When I saw Robert's ex-wife had remarried, I prayed her new family would be spared what we went through. Over lunch, Linda shares her story. The similarities to my situation are eerie. Pamela's gradual isolation of Robert from his mother, the discovery of financial documents, the attempts to gain control of Linda's assets, and finally, the ultimatums. She told my son he had to choose between us, Linda says, her voice steady, but her eyes reflecting old pain. When he finally stood up to her, she left him and took everything she could on her way out. Did you take legal action? By the time I understood what was happening, she had already done considerable damage. We filed charges, but she agreed to a settlement, returning some of what she'd taken in exchange for our silence. I regret that now. Perhaps if we'd pursued it fully, your family might have been warned. You couldn't have known, I assure her. Did she show any remorse? Linda's laugh is hollow. Pamela doesn't feel remorse. She feels entitled. In her mind, she deserves whatever she can take. How did she find her victims? First you, then me? I've thought about that a lot. I think she looks for families with assets and certain vulnerabilities. In my case, I was a widow with a devoted son. Your situation is similar. Armed with Linda's story and a better understanding of what I'm facing, I return to my hotel to find 3 missed calls from Jeffrey. I call him back immediately. Mom, where have you been? I've been trying to reach you all day. I had some appointments, I say, unwilling to share details over the phone. Is everything okay? No. Pamela found out the USB drive is missing. She's furious. She thinks someone broke in and stole it. Did you tell her you took it? No. I was too scared. Mom, she's talking about filing a police report for breaking and entering. The irony would be laughable if the situation weren't so serious. Jeffrey, we need to talk in person. Somewhere private. I can't today. Pamela won't let me out of her sight. She's acting paranoid, checking all the doors and windows. Tomorrow, then. Find an excuse to leave the house. I'll try. Mom, I'm sorry. I never thought things would go this far. After we hang up, I sit on the edge of the hotel bed, overcome with a mixture of anger and sadness. How did we get here? When did my daughter-in-law's resentment turn into this calculated campaign of financial predation? The next day, Jeffrey texts that he can't get away. The day after, the same. By the third day, I'm worried enough to drive past the house. Both cars are in the driveway, but no one answers when I knock. That evening, I receive a formal-looking envelope delivered by courier. Inside is a legal notice. Jeffrey has filed for full ownership of the house, claiming I gifted my interest to them when they married. The document includes a copy of a gift letter with what purports to be my signature, a signature that is clearly forged. I call Patricia Morales immediately. They've made their move, I tell her, my voice shaking with anger and disbelief. Bring me the document first thing tomorrow, she says. This changes our strategy. That night, I can barely sleep. The forgery crosses a line into clear criminal territory. As painful as it is, I may have no choice but to press charges against my own daughter-in-law, and possibly my son. In the morning, as I prepare to leave for Patricia's office, I receive a text from an unknown number. Mrs. Harrison, this is Robert Keller. My mother told me she spoke with you. There's something you should know about Pamela. Can we meet? Another piece of the puzzle falls into place, and the picture it reveals is darker than I imagined. The preliminary court hearing goes exactly as Patricia Morales predicted, poorly. Despite our evidence of the forged gift letter, the judge seems swayed by the image of the young expectant couple versus the supposedly difficult mother-in-law. Families often have informal arrangements that aren't properly documented, the judge comments, peering at me over her reading glasses. And gift letters for property aren't unusual between parents and children. Your Honor, my client never signed that letter, Patricia argues. We're prepared to bring in a handwriting expert to prove the signature was forged. You'll have that opportunity at the full hearing. For now, the temporary order stands. Mrs. Harrison will refrain from entering the property until ownership is determined. I sit there, stunned by the injustice. I'm legally barred from my own home, the home I purchased and have been paying for all these years. Outside the courthouse, Patricia tries to reassure me. This is just the first round. We have strong evidence of forgery and fraud. The full hearing will go differently. But I'm finding it hard to share her optimism. They're living in my house while I'm staying in a hotel. How is that fair? The legal system isn't always fast, but it does usually get to the truth. We need to be patient and thorough. Patient is the last thing I feel as I drive back to the hotel. The stress of the past weeks is taking its toll. My blood pressure is elevated, I'm not sleeping well, and the constant anxiety has left me with a persistent headache. That evening, the headache intensifies until I'm seeing flashing lights in my peripheral vision. When I become nauseated and dizzy, I call the front desk, who summon an ambulance. At the hospital, the diagnosis is a hypertensive crisis. My blood pressure has reached dangerous levels. This could have led to a stroke, the doctor tells me soberly. You need to reduce your stress levels immediately. Easier said than done when your home and life savings are being stolen by your own family. I spend 2 nights in the hospital. During that time, my sister Dorothy flies in from Florida to be with me. You're coming home with me, she declares, brooking no argument. Just until this mess is sorted out. I can't leave now, I protest weakly. The court case. Your lawyer can handle most of it without you physically present. Your health comes first. On my final day in the hospital, I receive an unexpected visitor, Jeffrey. He looks terrible, unshaven, eyes bloodshot, shoulders slumped under an invisible weight. Mom, he whispers, taking my hand. I didn't know you were sick. They just told me. Who told you? Carol Anderson saw the ambulance and called the house. I study my son's face, searching for the boy I raised. Jeffrey, why are you doing this? The lawsuit, the forged gift letter. Do you want to destroy me? Tears fill his eyes. I didn't know about the gift letter until after it was filed. I swear, Mom. Pamela said we were just formalizing what was already understood. that the house would be ours eventually. But it's not eventually yet. I'm still very much alive, and that house is still half mine. He nods miserably. I know. I've been trying to talk to Pamela, but she won't listen. She says if I don't support her on this, she'll leave and take the baby. And you believe she'll actually do that? Yes, he says without hesitation. She's done it before. This confirms what Robert Keller told me when we met. Pamela had a daughter from a previous relationship who she used as leverage against Robert, eventually taking the child and cutting off all contact when he refused to comply with her demands. Jeffrey, you need to understand something. This isn't just about the house anymore. Pamela has committed serious crimes, identity theft, mail fraud, forgery. There will be consequences. I know, he says, his voice breaking. And I'm scared of what that means for all of us. Before he leaves, Jeffrey hugs me tightly, something he hasn't done in years. I'm sorry, Mom. I'll try to make this right somehow. I want to believe him. But experience has taught me that good intentions aren't enough when dealing with someone like Pamela. The next day, Dorothy and I fly to Florida. Her condo isn't large, but it has a comfortable guest room and a sunny terrace overlooking a small lake. Most importantly, it feels safe, a sanctuary from the nightmare my life has become. Patricia keeps me updated on the case. Our handwriting expert confirms the gift letter signature is a forgery. We file for an expedited hearing based on my health concerns and financial hardship. Paying for a hotel while also covering the mortgage has rapidly depleted my savings. 2 weeks into my stay with Dorothy, I receive a call from Patricia with news that makes my heart race. The judge has granted our request for an expedited hearing, but that's not all. The police have opened an investigation into the identity theft and mail fraud. They executed a search warrant at the house yesterday. What did they find? Enough to arrest Pamela on multiple charges. Jeffrey is cooperating with investigators. He claims he was unaware of the extent of her activities. The news leaves me with conflicted feelings. Relief that the truth is coming to light, but sorrow for my son and the unborn grandchild who will be affected by their mother's actions. The next call comes from Jeffrey, his voice urgent and strained. Mom, Pamela's been arrested. Her bail hearing is tomorrow. I don't know what to do. What do you want to do? I ask carefully. I don't think I can post bail for her, not after what I've learned. The police showed me everything, the credit card applications, the forged documents, even a plan to have you declared incompetent. He pauses, his breathing ragged. She had a notebook, Mom. It detailed everything, step by step, just like she did with her ex-husband's mother. I know, I say quietly. I've spoken with Linda Keller. You have? Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? His silence is answer enough. Jeffrey, I need to know something. How much did you know about what Pamela was doing? Not everything, he says quickly. I swear. I knew she wanted you out of the house, and I knew about the garage conversion. I even knew she was pressuring me about the ownership transfer. But the forgery, the credit card applications, the mail theft, I didn't know about any of that. I want to believe him. I need to believe him. What happens now? He asks, sounding lost. That depends on several things. Whether Pamela accepts a plea deal or goes to trial. Whether you continue to cooperate with the investigation, and what you want for your future and your child's future. I don't think I can stay with her after this, he admits. But the baby. One step at a time, I counsel. For now, focus on cooperating with the authorities and taking care of yourself. After we hang up, I sit with Dorothy on her terrace, watching the sunset paint the lake in shades of orange and pink. Do you think he's telling the truth? She asks. About not knowing the extent of it? I sigh, the question weighing heavily on my heart. I think he knew more than he's admitting, but less than would make him complicit. He was manipulated, but he also allowed himself to be manipulated. Can you forgive him? Eventually, I say, surprised to find I mean it. But trust will take longer to rebuild. The expedited hearing is scheduled for the following week. Despite my doctor's concerns, I insist on flying back for it. Some battles must be fought in person. The week before the hearing, I assemble my team: Patricia Morales, my attorney; Michael Walker, the private investigator; Nancy Whitman, my financial advisor; and Dr. Emma Reynolds, a psychologist specializing in family dynamics and elder abuse. We need to be strategic, Patricia advises during our planning meeting. The criminal charges against Pamela strengthen our case, but they don't guarantee a favorable outcome in the civil matter. What are our biggest vulnerabilities? I ask. The lack of formal documentation regarding your financial arrangement with Jeffrey. Courts generally prefer clear paper trails over verbal agreements, even between family members. Nancy Whitman agrees. We need to quantify exactly how much you've contributed to the property over 15 years. Mortgage payments, property taxes, improvements, maintenance, everything. I've spent days gathering records. 15 years of bank statements showing monthly mortgage payments, receipts for home improvements, property tax records. The total is staggering. Over $600,000 invested in a property I'm now locked out of. Michael Walker has his own contributions. I've documented every unauthorized credit application, every instance of mail theft, and every forged document. The pattern is clear and consistent with financial exploitation. Dr. Reynolds will testify about the psychological manipulation evident in the case. The isolation tactics, the gaslighting, the ultimatums, these are classic strategies used by financial abusers, she explains. Particularly telling is the way your daughter-in-law systematically undermined your relationship with your son. As our meeting concludes, Patricia gives me a searching look. There's one more thing we should discuss. Have you decided how you want to handle things with Jeffrey? It's the question I've been wrestling with since returning from Florida. My son betrayed me, yes, but he was also Pamela's victim in many ways. I want to leave the door open for reconciliation, I say finally, but with clear boundaries and protections in place. Patricia nods. We can work with that. The next day brings an unexpected development. Jeffrey calls to tell me he's been in touch with Pamela's parents. They're coming to town, he says. They want to meet with you. Why? I ask, instantly suspicious. They say they want to help resolve this. Apparently, they've been through something similar before. This confirms another piece of information from Robert Keller. Pamela had attempted similar schemes with her own parents years ago, targeting her father's retirement fund. I agree to meet them at a neutral location, a private room at Patricia's office building. Edward and Marion Bennett arrive, looking weary and much older than their mid-60s. They greet me with the awkward politeness of people connected by painful circumstances. We want to apologize, Edward begins after we're seated, for what our daughter has done to you. Did you know she was doing this? I ask directly. Marion shakes her head. Not specifically, no. But we recognize the pattern when Jeffrey called us. Pamela has always been. She searches for the right word. Manipulative, Edward supplies. Even as a child. We sought help for her, therapists, behavioral programs. Nothing seemed to take. They describe a childhood marked by incidents of stealing, lying, and manipulation that escalated as Pamela grew older. By her teens, she was opening credit cards in her parents' names. In her early 20s, she attempted to gain power of attorney over her father during a brief hospitalization. We had to cut her off financially, Marion explains. It was the hardest thing we've ever done. Why are you telling me this now? I ask. Edward looks me directly in the eyes. Because we want to help make this right. We can testify about Pamela's history if it would help your case. Their offer is unexpected, but welcome. Adding their testimony to our already strong case could be decisive. The day before the hearing, I receive another call from Jeffrey. Mom, I need to tell you something important. Can we meet? We arrange to meet at a coffee shop near my hotel. Jeffrey arrives early, a manila envelope clutched in his hands. I found something else, he says, sliding the envelope across the table. Pamela kept a journal. She wrote everything down, her plans for the house, for your money, everything. Inside the envelope is a leather-bound notebook filled with meticulous entries dating back 3 years. The earliest pages detail Pamela's resentment of my presence in her home. Later entries evolve into concrete plans, first to move me to the garage, then to have me declared incompetent, and finally to sell the house once in her name and move to another state, away from both me and Jeffrey's workplace. She was planning to leave you too, I say, looking up from the damning pages. Jeffrey nods, his face ashen. Once she had control of everything, the baby was just leverage to make me cooperate. How did you find this? She kept it in a locked box in her craft room. After she was arrested, I went through everything, trying to understand. His voice breaks. Mom, I've been such a fool. And I've hurt you terribly. Yes, you have, I acknowledge, not sugarcoating the truth. But you're trying to make it right now. I don't know if I can, he admits. But I want to try. I reach across the table and take his hand. That's a start. With the journal added to our evidence, Patricia is confident about the hearing. This is the smoking gun, she says after reviewing it. It establishes premeditation and a clear pattern of deception. The morning of the hearing, I dress with care, a navy blue suit that Dorothy insisted on buying me, claiming my old one made me look like I was apologizing for existing. My sister's words echo in my mind. Stand tall. This is your house and your life. Don't let anyone take either from you. The courtroom is more crowded than I expected. In addition to our team, Pamela's court-appointed attorney is present, as are the Bennetts, several neighbors, and even Robert Keller, who nods solemnly when our eyes meet. Pamela herself is not present. She remains in county jail, awaiting trial on the criminal charges. Jeffrey sits alone at the back, separate from both legal teams. The hearing begins with each side presenting opening statements. Patricia is eloquent and precise, outlining the evidence of forgery, fraud, and financial exploitation. Pamela's attorney attempts to portray the situation as a family misunderstanding, but his arguments sound hollow against the weight of evidence. When it's my turn to testify, I speak clearly about my intentions when purchasing the house, my financial contributions over 15 years, and the betrayal I experienced at the hands of my daughter-in-law, and to a lesser extent, my son. Mrs. Harrison, the judge asks, what outcome are you seeking today? I take a deep breath. I want my home back, Your Honor. I want my name cleared of any suggestion that I gifted away my property, and I want protections in place to ensure this can never happen again. The most powerful testimony comes from unexpected sources. Edward Bennett describes his daughter's history of manipulation and financial exploitation. Robert Keller recounts his experience as Pamela's former husband, including her attempts to gain control of his mother's assets. And finally, Jeffrey takes the stand. My mother has always been generous and supportive, he says, his voice steady despite his obvious distress. She bought our home to help us start our married life. She paid the mortgage all these years so we could build our savings. And in return, I betrayed her trust. The gift letter is a forgery. My mother never intended to give up her ownership of the house. By the time all evidence has been presented, the outcome seems inevitable. The judge rules decisively in my favor. The forged gift letter is invalidated, my half-ownership of the property is confirmed, and I am granted exclusive right to occupy the house until a final division of assets can be arranged. Additionally, the judge adds, given the evidence of financial exploitation, I'm issuing a restraining order prohibiting Pamela Bennett Harrison from contacting Mrs. Vivian Harrison or accessing any property or accounts in her name. As the courtroom clears, Jeffrey approaches tentatively. What happens now? He asks. Now we begin rebuilding, I tell him. If that's what you want, it is, he says simply. More than anything. 6 months later, I sit on the porch swing of my house, truly mine now, watching the autumn leaves drift from the maple trees that line our street. So much has changed since that terrible day when I found my luggage on the sidewalk. Pamela accepted a plea deal on the criminal charges, 3 years in prison, followed by 5 years of probation. As part of the agreement, She relinquished all claims to the house and my other assets. The divorce proceedings between her and Jeffrey were finalized last month. Jeffrey has changed too. After temporarily moving into an apartment near his office, he's begun the slow work of rebuilding our relationship through weekly dinners, joint therapy sessions, and genuine accountability for his role in what happened. I let myself be manipulated because it was easier than standing up to her, he admitted during one particularly difficult conversation. But I also made choices that hurt you deeply, and I have to live with that. The house underwent its own transformation. With Patricia's help, I established a clear legal framework for its ownership. It remains solely in my name now, with provisions in my will for Jeffrey to inherit it only under specific conditions, including financial counseling and transparency. My bedroom has been restored, though I chose new furniture and a different color scheme. Some losses can't be replaced. Family photographs, mementos, things Pamela discarded during her purge. But I've found that material possessions matter less than I once thought. The most unexpected change came 3 months ago with the birth of my granddaughter, Emily. Despite everything, I couldn't help but love this innocent child from the moment Jeffrey placed her in my arms. Through a complicated legal arrangement, Jeffrey has full custody, with supervised visitation for Pamela after her release. Emily spends 3 days a week with me while Jeffrey works, an arrangement that brings me joy. I hadn't thought possible in the aftermath of such betrayal. I've converted the small sitting room adjacent to my bedroom into a cheerful nursery, painted pale green with animals rather than the teddy bears Pamela had chosen. Dorothy visits often, her practical wisdom and unfailing support having carried me through the darkest days. "You always were the strong one," she told me recently. "You just needed to remember it." My financial security has been restored and strengthened. Nancy Whitman helped me establish safeguards for all my accounts, including 2-factor authentication, credit monitoring, and a revocable trust that protects my assets while allowing me to manage them independently. The doorbell rings, interrupting my reflections. It's Jeffrey, arriving for our standing Sunday dinner. Emily is bundled against the October chill in a pale yellow blanket I knitted during my stay with Dorothy. She fell asleep in the car, he says, carefully transferring her to my arms. Must have been exciting at the pediatrician yesterday. She's growing so fast, I marvel, inhaling the sweet baby scent as Emily stirs slightly before settling against my shoulder. Inside, the house smells of pot roast and apple pie, comfort foods that have become our tradition on these Sunday gatherings that sometimes include Dorothy, occasionally the Andersons, and once even the Bennets, who are making their own painful journey toward reconciliation with the truth about their daughter. Over dinner, Jeffrey shares news about a promotion at work and his plans to take a financial management course at the community college. "I want to be better with money," he explains, "for Emily's sake and my own." "That's wonderful," I say, genuinely proud of his efforts to grow from this experience rather than being defined by it. Later, after Emily is settled in her portable crib and Jeffrey has gone home to his apartment, I sit in my restored bedroom and reflect on everything that's happened. The betrayal still stings when I allow myself to dwell on it, but those moments come less frequently now. What remains is a hard-won wisdom. That trust must be earned and maintained, not given blindly even to those we love. That standing up for yourself isn't selfish but necessary, and that it's never too late to rebuild what's been broken, though the new structure may look different than the original. Most importantly, I've learned that true strength isn't about never falling, but about how you rise after being knocked down. I was knocked down harder than I ever imagined possible by people I thought would never hurt me. Yet here I stand, not just surviving but thriving, with clearer boundaries and deeper understanding of my own resilience. The journey from that sidewalk with my luggage to this peaceful evening in my secure home wasn't easy. It required courage I didn't know I possessed, support from unexpected allies, and the painful recognition of hard truths about my family. But in facing these challenges, I discovered a strength that had always been within me, waiting for the moment when I needed it most. As I prepare for bed, I notice a text message from Jeffrey. "Thank you for dinner and for everything else. I love you, Mom." Simple words, but weighted with meaning after all we've been through. I respond with equal simplicity. I love you too. Always have, always will. That's the final lesson in this difficult chapter of my life. That love and forgiveness are possible even after deep betrayal, but they must be paired with wisdom and clear boundaries to truly heal. I'm not the same woman who returned from Florida to find her bags on the sidewalk. I'm stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever to live the remainder of my life on my own terms. Have you ever had to stand up for yourself against someone you loved? It's one of the hardest things we face in life, but also one of the most necessary. I'd love to hear your stories of resilience and rebuilding in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to be reminded of their own strength today. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and remember, it's never too late to reclaim what's rightfully yours.